Flashback to 2022, and London has witnessed a 17% hike in rents. And there were just talks last year about the rental market cooling off. But it's 2024 now, and nothing's happened. Or has it? In this video, I want to share with you exactly why rents increased so much in recent years. But I'm also going to share with you where the rental market is right now and what to do with this information, whether you're a landlord or a tenant. And to do this, I need to take you back to 2021, where Sarah and her flatmate decided to secure a 2-bedroom property in central London. Now, they were both thrilled to find out that the rental had decreased substantially during the pandemic. Now, of course, this was because of the oversupply, and there were different factors causing this. You had lockdowns and movement restrictions, economic uncertainty, people losing their jobs, perhaps just moving back to mum and dad, shift in housing preferences, of course, a decrease in international arrivals, especially in London, where it's such an international city, and an increase in supply from landlords shifting their long-term rentals into short-term. So needless to say that Sarah and her flatmate were spoilt for choice. Lots of properties at a very good price, and ultimately they secured the 2-bedroom property for £1,900. However, that landlord was actually renting that property just probably around about 18 to 24 months before that, around about £2,100, £2,200. So they've got a bargain, right? However, as the pandemic started to slow down and people started to come back to the city, so what we had was a high tenant demand with a very low supply of properties. Also add to that a lot of landlords had put properties on the short-term rental sector and they were enjoying the benefits of it and didn't want to come back to the long-term rental. Now slowly but suddenly, Sarah's renewal comes up in 2022. And she's not happy to find out that the valuation has come in at £2,400, £2,500. Of course, a lot's changed, even in that space of 12 months. Now, landlord really wants to keep Sarah because she's been an excellent tenant. However, she doesn't want to feel out of pocket. They settle somewhere in between around about £2,300. It's a win-win situation, right? However, in 2023, the landlady cannot keep up below market rent. Why? Because her mortgage package has come to an end. Where she was paying 2%, it's now increased to 6% to keep her property for her mortgage. And she's gone back to Sarah, and this time the rental valuation has come in at £2,750. So Sarah's very upset. However, if she moves out of this property to stay in the same area, it's going to cost her the same, £2,700 to £3,000. And the thing is, the rental market changes so quickly in London. So make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with all things lettings and rental. Now, both the landlord and the tenant has been working really hard to try to come to a conclusion, but they've not been able to. So therefore, the landlady has very kindly asked for the tenant to move out. And ultimately, the landlady has come out of all of this like the bad guy. Why? Because she's the one that's increased the rent by 25%. But if she didn't, she'll lose the property. But the average rent in April, according to Zoopla, is just above £2,000. However, if we look at how much it's increased in the last year, it's around about 4.1%. Now, we're no longer seeing close to those double digits back in 2021 or even 2022. So rents are still increasing, but the pace at what they're increasing is much slower. So I'm sure that's good news for tenants. And ultimately, it's just not sustainable. If we look at tenants right now, we can see sort of a few years ago, around about 40% was going towards their rental. Now, right now, that's gone up almost to 50%. Again, it's not sustainable and there is going to be a limit to that. There's always a cause and effect. There's another thing that we're seeing at the moment, which is fraud. Fraud in the applications when they're making those applications for rental properties. They can't afford it and tenants are going through some drastic measures to be able to secure properties, which sounds crazy because they're securing properties and they're lying to be able to secure properties that they can't afford. Now, again, there needs to be empathy on both sides of this. Growth has slowed from 6.4% last month and a 14.8% a year ago. The current annual increase is lower than the UK as a whole, as London rents have started to reach an affordability ceiling. Now, the borough of Bexley has the cheapest average rent in London at £1,500, but rents are rising quickly in this comparatively cheap spot. Now, rents are much higher in the inner London boroughs like Kensington, Chelsea, the City of Westminster and Camden, but rents are rising more slowly in these areas between 1% and 4%. I'm just curious, what's your experience as a tenant or a landlord in London? Leave me a comment below because it will help out a lot of people watching this video. So my recommendation, landlords and tenants. First thing is communication. Communication is key in whichever relationship that you look at. And if you're a landlord where your mortgage package is coming to an end, you're going to know that a year, 2 years before. Make sure you have that conversation with your tenant. Because one thing is knowing sort of a couple of months before and getting that slap in the face of a 25, 30% increase. Another thing is sort of 6 months before that, letting them know what the situation is. And if you're renewing with them below market value, make sure you put that in bullet points and let them know. And especially in comparison to sort of a couple of years ago, if we look at inquiries to listings around about 2 years ago, I mean, it was around about 50, even to 100. You put a property on the market and within 24 hours, you literally had to take it off. Up to last year, that was almost around about 20 inquiries per listing. And right now it's down to 13. So yeah, the evidence is there. But price-wise, price continues to increase. It slowed down to an extent, absolutely. Will it continue to slow down? I'd say yes, because it's not sustainable. Everything has a limit. Even if it's those working professionals who earn more than £100,000, or whether it's those overseas students. I mean, we had quite a few students come to us the other day and just say, we want to move areas because we want to downsize and go into an area that's less expensive. So everyone has a limit. No one has sort of unlimited pocket space, right? You can have deep pockets, but may not be able to achieve home ownership here in the city, especially with the average price being something along the lines of £600,000. And with mortgage rates at what they are at the moment, 4%, give or take, again, that's going to be a challenge. And that's if, you know, mum and dad's bank are able to help them not only with the deposit, but with the ongoing mortgage cost. And a lot of renters are hoping that with the incentive that the government's given to a lot of buy-to-let landlords, with the capital gain tax going down ever so slightly, that this can free up more properties and perhaps shift the market. But I'm not seeing that, because even with that, the amount of properties that are on the market at the moment for sale far outstrips the amount of rental properties that are on the market. One can only say, so make sure you stay tuned to find out how the market shifts, because when it does shift, it does it very, very quickly, especially in London. So stay tuned.